This is the story of a Yaksha that possessed strength in the face of adversity, and it's also the story of the men that stood with him, fought beside his battle cries, but ultimately perished at his side. Yakshas have been an integral part of Liyue's long history, with 5 of them once serving the Geo-Archon himself. Many believe that these 5 were chosen by Morax for their strength and capability. Together, they purged many evil spirits in the hopes that Liyue's people would be safe from danger. Eventually, they were corrupted. Some incited a conflict between themselves, while others succumbed to their karmic debt, with 3 of them dying and 1 who went missing. This is one such story. In the western part of Liyue, after crossing the paths near Xingqiu Pool, is a mine that is known for the quality of its ore, in which glazed crystal sand is found deep below the deepest depths. Legend has it that this area, surrounded by spiraling cliffs, was where a bloody battle took place. In that bygone age, monsters which originated from the creations of a certain alchemist from Conria had suddenly appeared west of Linju Pass. This alchemist, Rhindaughter, was from an ancient nation where alchemy was developed and practiced, possessing all sorts of knowledge without any goddess' approval. This one produced all sorts of experiments that no one has ever attempted. One wonders whether her creations were intentionally made to displease the heavens, but in this video, such questions matter not, as the point in our story focuses on a 4-armed Yaksha, why he went missing, and how he decided to meet his end in the chasm. Looking back to the Archon War, an event that we vaguely know about, a lot of gods died fighting for one of the divine seats presented by Celestia, the floating island up in the sky that we also have no prior knowledge of. After Morax emerged as Liyue's Archon, he called 5 powerful Yakshas by his side: Bosacius, Indarius, Bonanus, Minogius, and Alatus. These 5 illuminated beasts each harbored an element to their power. They were bound to an eternal hunt for curses that fallen gods had left. This led to countless years of fighting that soon tired these mighty warriors. In due time, internal conflict resulted, and they battled amongst themselves. It gave a brutal outcome, having 3 of them dead. With the 3 gone, the Electro Yaksha abandoned his duty and decided to depart to other lands. Before setting out, he left his treasures near the Minlan region and left a message to those who would someday stumble upon it. With his departure, only Alatus remained as the conqueror of demons. This was the case for a time. Liyue now had only 1 Yaksha protecting them from evil. Then in the course of time, that fateful day came, the event that plunged all of Teyvat's nations into war. Similar to what was happening in Inazuma and Mondstadt, Liyue was also under this threat. Rifthounds suddenly appeared, bringing death and destruction with them. Somehow they reached the chasm and threatened the lives of all those who lived there. The miners stationed in the chasm quickly abandoned their posts, but Morax was quick to act and called his Millelith Brigade. This Millelith Brigade is composed of his most loyal subjects, which apparently had superhuman strength at this time and were regarded to be much superior than the Millelith soldiers we have now. Morax ordered them to assemble near the chasm to evacuate the miners and prevent the monsters from scattering into different parts of Liyue. By the time this was happening, the Electro Yaksha was wandering around Tianzhu Valley. She had heard of the southern threat, and to his instincts, made his way to the chasm. Somewhere along the way, he stumbled upon people of the mountains, as is said from the Chinese translation. They believed that with this arrival of the Electro Yaksha, their pleas were heard, allowing them to continue mining once the threat was dealt with. They told him, "Please accept our wine and our words, faraway guest. The wine in the mountains may be sour and bitter than the pearl pulp praised by Rex Lapis in Mount Tianheng. But the people of the mountains make their living by the precious stones and jade given to them by heaven. Thanks to Rex Lapis's kindness and righteousness, although the days are not satisfactory, they are still rich and worry-free. However, the situation is not the same as before, as the favor of the stars is hindered by the evil of darkness." Examining the story of the Vermilion hereafter, I believe these miners had done something wrong. Reading the Chinese translation, it is noted with the phrase, "The visitor finished silently." trying to make a promise. After hearing the elder's pleas, he silently drank the bitter wine in the cup and scolded the people of the mountains for being rude and went away to the east. What act of rudeness could these miners have done? As far as we know, the Yaksha was greeted and treated respectfully from the start. It's not mentioned what these people said or done, but perhaps the Yaksha told the people of the mountains to evacuate further, but did not follow his request, or maybe perhaps he felt that he wasn't recognized by them, even after years of servitude alongside Rex Lapis. To carry on, having the chaos transpiring in the mining area, the Yaksha continued his way. Upon his arrival, he saw the Millelith guards entrenched near the entrance, some of them assisting citizens out of the area. As he turned his view towards the dark abyss, the Rift Hounds numbered by the thousands. This caused some of the Millelith to be disheartened, believing that victory is out of reach. One Millelith soldier uttered, "Going to one's death willingly in defense of the people, a good cause indeed. Yet, if you think about it, I may yet achieve my own desire, but we shall go unknown and ultimately unremembered. Saving, defending, in the end, these are all pointless things, void of meaning." However, as the Yaksha arrived and offered his assistance to them, this caught their attention. With the Calamity Queller in his hand, a weapon made from an ominous aqua-colored crystal, the Yaksha held immense strength, which boosted the Millelith spirits. Before the inevitable battle, the Millelith troops dedicated a toast to Morax, using the nobles' pledging vessel as their cups. They chanted, "While rock stays hard, the mountain shall never fail. While the Millelith stands guard, evil shall never prevail." Finishing their toast, they took out their lithic spears, a weapon made from the rocks of Gyun Stone Forest, which holds great weight but is unmatched in its effectiveness. Soon the Millelith lined up in formation and made a defensive stance, with the Yaksha stationed in the middle. There, they patiently waited for the enemy's attack. A few minutes later, the abyssal monsters began their assault, charging towards the unbreakable lines of spears and men. If the abyssal monsters are not stopped here, it's the lands behind that will suffer. It's best to face these threats head-on in a position made for defense, than to allow them to encircle and destroy any one of Liyue's villages. Should the unthinkable happen, Liyue Harbor will be undefended. The first wave was held back with ease, but caused some casualties to the Millelith troops. In spite of that, they stayed strong for their fallen comrades, which they'll need in earnest to survive the next wave of hordes. As the second wave charges forward, their numbers grow unfathomable as they shake the very ground with their approach. However, the Millelith remain firm, as they know that with their brothers-in-arms by their sides, they will have nothing to fear. As the battle continues, the Millelith chip away at the endless hordes approaching. To their surprise, the death of countless Rift Hounds brought out an ominous aura, similar to the curse in Yashiori. This would cause some of the Millelith to be consumed by darkness, and ultimately make them go mad. This gave them a disadvantage. How would they manage to fend off these monsters if they brought out a curse upon each death? This took the defending force by surprise, rendering them blind and helpless in the battle. The monsters took a handful of them, resulting in some to break formations, but it wasn't enough to break their will. The Yaksha, sensing the impending fall of the Millelith flanks, lent his strength and abilities to the fray. He expertly calmed his fellow troops, while wielding the Calamity Queller to both smite his foes and grant boons to the soldiers. As grim as the situation was, they needed to find a way to resolve the effects of the curse. To buy them some time, the Yaksha was continuing to slaughter as many as he could. He uses the Calamity Queller's cold flash to wipe out a dozen of the enemy. This gave the chance for the Millelith to regroup and form back into formation. Soon after, a general of the Millelith finally thought of a way to fight by relying on the Orichalcus time dial. His idea was to set up a designated time for each squadron to be on the front during the battle, protecting each squadron from the karma of slaughter by establishing an advance and repeat rhythm to their march. As one squadron retreated, Another would advance in their place and let the retreating squadrons rest and minimize their exposure to the curse. This tactic worked slowly but successfully, and it continued on until the Millelith reached the mines below. As they reached the tunnels, the Yaksha and the Millelith encountered another problem. The terrain there was dark, and their formations would no longer be able to advance in the narrow pathways of the chasm. So they split into small groups and continued to advance towards the threat. They also used glittering sand crystals to light the darkness and find any remaining monsters. From here, the Millelith know they're entering a war of attrition, as they can now only hope that they have the manpower left to defeat the Abyss monsters before they are overwhelmed. Hearing the echoing roars in the mines, they know the Rift Hounds are making their way to their position, so they made a final stand in the hopes to stop the enemy and end them once and for all. It's an arduous and bitter battle and forces the Millelith to scatter, leading to many single confrontations between man and monster. It went on until the last drop of blood had soaked into the battlefield. Finally, the sounds of war have ended. Here is where the battle is won and where the packs of Rift Hounds are overwhelmed and routed. The Millelith troops are dwindled but not defeated, and Morax is now only a fraction of the brave men and women he assembled with. Their victory was bittersweet, as most of their comrades lay dead on the ground. As for the Yaksha, no one knows what happened, but some sources suggest that he was corrupted by the abyssal curse of the countless monsters he killed, making him mad. While some also suggest that during the heat of battle, the Yaksha met his end and his lifeless body laid with the remains of his fellow comrades. To say which is correct, we will never know. But hopefully the next patch titled Hidden Dreams in the Depths could answer this question. With the chasm safe once again, Liyue was no longer threatened. Yet, the devastation and ruin that the Cataclysm caused was permanent. It is said that during the aftermath of this battle, you can see plenty of scattered Millelith helmets laying on the ground, together with a heap of broken spears and shields, their banners left waving as those that held them lay peaceful on the earth. Morax cannot shake the feeling that the day's events have heralded a changing of the tide. He wanted to pay respects to his dead Millelith troops and the heroic acts of the Yaksha, and dedicate a vow of silence. The Yaksha and the Millelith sacrifice was a result of bravery and courage to be remembered throughout the centuries. Soon, all miners, surviving Millelith soldiers, and the family members of the deceased built memorials to showcase what sacrifice they took to keep Liyue safe. To come as a side story, there was one Millelith soldier who was injured during the fight that got a vision and became a self-learned doctor. This soldier sustained an injury where his forelimbs could no longer move. During the fight, he wanted to continue on and join his comrades despite his disability, but according to him, Morax disapproved of his decision and advised him to rest. After the battle, the soldier experienced combat disorder and could not sleep at night, claiming to hear the howls of his dead friends. To lay his thoughts to rest, he made a stone tablet in which he carved his message to his dead comrades and to those who would stumble upon it. This was in fact the stone tablet we see near Tiangong Gorge. 500 years later, we arrived at the scene to witness this historical area for ourselves. It piqued our interest as we read and collected these offerings laid on the ground. Knowing that the battle continued deep beneath the chasm, we enter the area and find clues to our answers. It's true that we may never know what happened to the bodies, but what if the Yaksha continues to dwell in the chasm and we have yet to find out? To end this video, I will recall a Millelith soldier's final words before dwelling into the inner parts of the chasm. O daughters of the cliffs of glazed sand crystal, weep not for me. I was born in the shade of Tianheng, and I fight to repay Rex Lapis's mercy. I entrust my life to the four-armed Yaksha, and we shall go into the glowing depths. These horrors and their strangeness shall not put me to flight or fear. The only thing I truly fear is to be lost and forgotten. If fate buries me in a nameless place, do not forget me. Now, I want to say thank you for watching this video. While I was doing the script for this video, one question was bothering me. Where was Xiao during this fight, and why didn't he get to join in? Could he be busy with another threat? Let us hope that the next patch gives us answers to this. However, I do know that the developers are experiencing a hard time back in their homes, so all I want to say is that their health should come first, and they should take all the time they need. While we are all eager to jump into 2.7 next, the best thing we can do is just be patient and pray that they will all be safe and sound. Now once again, we are Clementine, and as usual, we will see you in the next.